Welcome to Learner's Planet students. Students, in today's session we will study about separation of substances. So in this session we will see the introduction of the separation of substances, and we will also discuss about the methods of separation. Alright, so let's start with this session. Yes students, first of all you should get familiar with the term substance. What is a substance? Yes students, a material which is made up of a particular kind is known as a substance, and it has mass and it also occupies space. For example, chemical substances, various chemical substances, and other substances like salt, pure water, iron filings, etc. Right? So it is one such thing that has mass and occupies space, and even it is made up of only a particular kind. Right? So this is termed as substance. Now, I hope you are clear with this term. Now, we will discuss about next term, that is a mixture. What is meant by mixture? Yes, it is a jumble of different things. Jumble means it is a material of two or more different substances. Means it is made up of two or more substances. That is a material which is made up of a particular kind which can retain their chemical properties. For example, soil, which is a mixture of clay, stones, roots and plants and animals, remains. Right? Even we can say that the air is a mixture of different gases like oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, etc. So we can say that this is called mixture. That means it is a material which is made up of two or more different substances. Alright? Students, there are some other examples also, like seawater. Seawater also contains a mixture of different compounds which is present in a solution. Right? As you know students, that all the three states of matter, that is solid, liquid and gases, are interchangeable. Means they can mix with themselves, and solid powders can mix easily, just as most of the rocks are a mixture of different minerals, right? Some liquids also mix very easily, but some do not. Like water and alcohol can mix together, but water and oil cannot mix. For example, gases mix by other processes because the molecules that are present in the gaseous state, the molecules which are present in the gas are widely spaced, right? So it could not be easier to mix a bucket full of green and blue balls. Mixing makes the balls more jumbled. So we can say that the separation of the ball is much harder, right? Can we say that a solution is a mixture in the liquid state? Yes, it is. For example, oil is insoluble in water because water and oil cannot mix with each other, and that is why cooking oil and water can be mixed together, right? Because cooking oil and water have such properties that they cannot be mixed together. So we can say that oil is insoluble in water. That means cooking oil and water cannot be mixed together, right? Alright, then now we will move on to the next topic, that is separation. So I hope you are clear with these terms, that is substance and mixture. And we discussed about some of the examples which finally explained that what is meant by mixture and what is meant by a substance. And now we will move on to the next topic known as separation. Yes, what is meant by separation? Yes, the removal of substances from a mixture of two or more substances is termed as separation. For example, filtering water, separating vegetables and fruits, sieving the flour like wheat flour, and straining tea. You might have seen in your home only, right? If you observe the grains carefully, we will find tiny stones or insects and many other particles present in it, which needs to be separated before we cook or before we consume it, right? And these all get to be separated or removed, right? Similarly, there are many other examples or many other things where these grains or pulses are need to be separated, right? And there are many other substances which need to be separated from one substance to from one to another, right? So we will see one such example of a concrete. If you live near the ocean, they surround you every day, right? Even the tap water also has many compounds, right? Many mixture of compounds, and it need to be separated or need to be removed to get purified water. That is, we can say that concrete, like we took an example of a concrete. If you live near the ocean, you can see that they surround you every day, right? And concrete is a mixture of lime, cement, water, sand, and other ground up rocks and solids, right? So workers then pour the concrete into a mold, and concrete turns into a solid which then separates into the pieces, right? And even salt water is different. So first of all it is in the liquid form, and then it is in an ionic solution form, right? So that is why to obtain salt is first broken up into ions in the water, and then it is separated. So this is one such example of salt and concrete, right? Students, have you ever gave a thought that why is separation necessary? Yes. Sometimes we need to remove unwanted things. For example, separating tea leaves from tea using a strainer. And if you don't like eating chilies, you remove them from your food. So we can say that separation is done to obtain useful things, such as obtaining butter by churning milk, and separating cotton fibers from its seeds using a machine known as cotton gin. And one more amazing thing to remember about mixtures and separation is that you start with some pieces, combine them, and then do something to pull those pieces apart again. So this is the best example of a mixture and a separation, right? You can wind up with some molecules that you started with, for example, grinding and boiling with the grinding and boiling process. If you have a mixture of salt and tiny pieces of iron, you could use a magnet to separate iron from that mixture. There are some things that you can remove by simply picking them up with your hand. But for example, if sand is mixed with salt, can you separate salt from it with your hand, just with your bare hands? No, because salt and sand particles are too small to be separated by hand. So they need the help of some machines, right? So we saw many examples of such mixtures and separation, right? I hope you are clear with this term, separation. Now let's move on to the next topic, and that is methods of separation. As we discussed that why separation is important. It is because to remove, we need to remove unwanted things from the foodstuffs before we cook it or before we consume it, right? So there are some methods of separation through which we can get the purified form of water, or even some solids, or even some foodstuffs which we can then consume it, right? So different methods are used for separating substances that are mixed together, and this separation is carried out on the basis of difference in their size, their shape, their mass, etc. Right? As we discussed that a substance has mass and it also occupies space, right? So separation is based on such factors. Alright. So there are some common methods of the separation of substances, and they are threshing, winnowing, hand picking and sieving. In this session we will discuss about threshing process in detail, right? And rest of them we will continue in the next session, right? So first of all we will see this flow chart. This is a flow chart showing the harvesting process. Yes, in the previous grades we studied about the harvesting process, but it is not so easy that it will be just over by one step. It needs many steps. Like first step of harvesting process is cutting of crops, then field drying and hauling, then stacking, piling, and then threshing, and then cleaning, right? So we will discuss about the threshing process. So let's see threshing process. Yes, threshing means to separate seed from a harvested plant. As we saw just now, as we saw the flow chart, it is a part of the harvesting process. That means it involves the separating of the grains from the straw, that is the dried stems, either by impact, by applying force or friction, or combining action, right? Combining action of the people to separate seed from a harvested plant, right? So it is a very important process or we can say it is an important part of the harvesting process. Now let's see that why it is important, why threshing process is important in the harvesting process. Because any delay between cutting and threshing process diminishes the grains, especially during field drying or when the crop is stacked in the field, right? As we saw in the steps that even before threshing there are some steps like field drying and stacking of the crops. So any delay between this cutting and threshing process will diminish the crop, and then the crop will be of no use to us, right? So threshing can cause scattering losses, right? When the crop is stacked in the field. So improper threshing can cause scattering losses, right? And proper threshing can give us a good crop. Can you see that? What do you think, which part of the two plants do we eat from the rice and wheat? We do not eat the whole plant. We do not eat the wheat plant and rice plant. We eat seeds or grains of wheat or rice crop, right? Because grains of these cereal plants such as rice and wheat serve as the sources of food for us. Like the flour, which is also known as atta, is used for making chapatis, which is made from the wheat grains. Generally, threshing is the process of loosening the edible part, that is the eatable part of cereal grain like wheat or rice, from inedible part which surrounds it, right? Have you seen the picture? We saw the picture of wheat and rice in the previous grades, right? And you must have noticed that there are many unwanted things surrounding this wheat seeds or the grains, right? So these seeds or grains act as a source of food for us, but not the whole crop, right? So it is the step in the grain preparation after harvesting and before winnowing. So this is the threshing process, which is very important. But remember that this process does not remove the bran from the grain. Bran means that is the outer covering of the wheat, which is very much nutritious. But the threshing process itself does not remove the bran from the grain, and it is not only the process through which we can get the seeds or the grains, right? So there are other methods also which are very, very much important in the harvesting process to yield a proper crop, a proper seed or the edible part from the whole cereal or pulse, right? So let's see some different threshing methods through which we can get a proper type of crop, a proper type of seed or a grain. Yes, so there are some different threshing methods like food threshing. So the first one we will study about the threshing method is the food threshing. Yes, this term itself means something done by the food, right? In this process, threshing is done by using bare feet or animals to thresh the crop which is spread on the floor. In some regions nowadays, animals have been replaced by tractors also, right? So sometimes threshing is also done by crushing the harvested stalks using bullocks or cows, right? So we can say this is a picture of a threshing method showing a cow threshing, right? This threshing is done by crushing the harvested stalk. You can see the harvested stalk over here using cows, right? So we can do it by bare feet also, or even by using animals, right? Domestic animals. Now let's see another method of threshing. Yes, another method of threshing process is the manual threshing. Yes, this term is also self-explanable. In this process, the grains are separated from the straw or the dried stems of the crops by impact, means by applying force when the crop is bitten against a slatted bamboo or wooden platform. Slatted bamboo is very much tough, right, where it's very hard. That is why the crop is beaten against it. Or it can be beaten against wooden platform or any other hard object such as steel, oil drum, right? So by applying force manually by our hands, by bare hands, we can beat the pile of crop, we can beat the crop on such a hard surface, and then threshing will be done, right? So we can say that we can obtain seeds from this harvested crop, because this process will loosen the crop, and it will yield the seeds which we wanted, right? So this will loosen the crop, and it will separate the husk from the grain like wheat or rice, etc. Right? So this is also a very good process, a part of threshing process. Let's move on to the next threshing process. Yes, the third one is the pedal threshing. In this process, students, we have to hold the crop against a threshing drum driven by the foot crank combs. You can see in the picture, these are the crank combs. Have you ever seen comb? Yes, you comb your hair every day, right? So you must have noticed the combs have something like this machine has. This also contains comb-like structure with which what will happen? Yes, you can see in this picture, right? These type of combs are present in this type of machine, which is also known as a pedal thresher. And what is done in this machine? Yes, we have to hold a pile of crop against this threshing drum, as these women have, these ladies are doing, right? And the grains will be separated from the straw itself, as small straw or the chaff and the foreign matter drops with the grains, and for this cleaning process is needed very much, right? So in this way we can separate the chaff, or we can separate the straw or the seeds, right? So I hope you are clear with this pedal threshing. Yes, students, we discussed that as a small straw or chaff or foreign matter will drop with the grains by this process. So what is actually meant by chaff? Yes, it is the mixture of the tiny leaves or the unwanted material which is present along with the crop, right? So we can say that after these crops have been harvested or the grains can be needed to be separated from the stalks or the dried stems. So we can say that we can separate the edible part of the crop from this chaff, means the mixture, and this is the process of threshing, right? So this is also one such part of threshing. Let's move on to the another part or another process of threshing. Yes, machine threshing or mechanical threshing means it is also self-explainable. Yes, we do not need the help of any people, right? We do not need to use, or we do not need to separate the grain, separate the edible seeds or any edible part of the crop from the straw or the dried stems by bare hands or bare feet, right? For this we have to use machine. So we can say that threshing is also done with the help of the machines such as combine harvester, right? Because this is a process, this is a part of the process of harvesting, right? That is why it is termed as harvester, and it does many people work together. That is why it is known as combine harvester. It does many things all together. Because of the high labor requirement of normal threshing, mechanical threshers of different types and sizes are increasingly being used, because it will reduce the time, it will save our time, and it will also reduce the labor requirement, right? So let's see one such picture of combine harvester. Yes, this is a picture of a combine harvester. As you can see that this is so complex machine, right? And you can also think that how much work it can reduce, right? So we can say that threshed grains may still contain seed coverings and tiny pieces of leaves of stem, right? Which is also called as chaff. Now this cannot be removed by threshing, so it is removed by the process, another process, right, which is also known as the cleaning process. But before that, combine harvester is used, with which threshing is done, right? So this is a very complex type of machine, but it is very much helpful for the farmers, right? So finally we can discuss about the parts of this machine, that what is actually present in it and how is it important. Yes, threshing is usually done in the field, near the field, or at the nearest road, and usually a machine thresher works with a drum as axially, as you can see here, right? So the crop will turn around an axial, as the drums have teeth on the surface, so it will move with the axial. These teeth will also move with the axial, and it will do all the required work. And then the teeth of the drum will make the grain separate from the straw or the dried stems by beating it itself, right? So this does not need the help of any person, right? So it will do it on its own, and that is why it is very much helpful. For example, paddy. Threshing is the process of beating even wheat crop or wheat plant or paddy plants in order to separate the seeds or grains from the straw. So threshing is one of the many tasks a combine harvester performs, along with harvesting the plants and also cleaning the grains. So to maintain the high quality of harvested grains, it should be threshed immediately after harvesting, right? So students, I hope that you are clear with the threshing process and you learned about something about separation of substances, right? But not only by threshing process we can yield the proper edible part from the crop, right? It is a very tedious process, it needs other processes also, right? So in the next session we will learn more about the processes, That is the cleaning process, the winnowing process, and other such processes to yield a proper seed or the grain. Right? So till then, keep learning, keep enjoying. Thank you, students.